You ever start the day already behind? You sit down with good intentions, maybe even a plan, and within 10 minutes, you're reacting? Emails, messages, small fires. By noon, you've worked hard, but you're not sure what actually moved forward. That's not a motivation problem. It's a focus problem. And today, I'm going to give you a simple system that cuts through that noise without adding another tool, app, or dashboard. Welcome back to Tech Talks with Grace, the show where we turn operational chaos into clarity one system at a time. Over the last few episodes, you've done some real work. You measured your systems, you scored your data integrity, you interpreted the results, and you started taking action with guided checklists. But here's the question. Most people hit at this particular stage. How do I stay consistent without feeling overwhelmed? That's what today is about. This episode is called Using Today's Focus to Stay on Track. So, what will you know by the end of this episode? You'll know why daily clarity matters more than long to do lists, how today's focus updates automatically based on your progress, how to use it in under 5 minutes each morning, and how this simple habit prevents burnout, distraction, and stalled momentum. This episode closes Pillar 2, and it sets up perfectly for what comes next: quarterly resets. Let's get into it. Let's start with the truth most business owners don't want to admit. Being overwhelmed doesn't come from too much work. It comes from too many decisions. Every morning, your brain is forced to decide what matters today, what can wait, what's urgent versus important, what to ignore. That constant decision making is exhausting, and it's why even capable, disciplined people feel scattered. Today's focus exists to remove those decisions. It's not a task list. It's not a planner. It's not another productivity hack. It's a single prioritized operational action chosen for you based on where your systems actually need attention. Let me introduce you to what's, I'm sure, an extremely familiar scenario. A founder we'll call Alan starts each day with a to-do list of 18 items, 3 systems that kind of work, a CRM that feels messy, and automations that break occasionally. Alan works hard every day, but progress feels random and different across the board, not exactly what he expected. So when Alan switched to a today's focus approach, everything changed for him. Instead of asking, what should I work on today? The system answered, today, improve completeness by fixing one required field in your intake form. One task, clear impact, no debate. That's the power of daily clarity. So let's define this clearly. Today's focus is one operational task tied to your lowest data integrity category, small enough to complete in one focused block, important enough to create momentum. But what isn't today's focus? It is not a full project. It is not a long list. And it is not a reactive task from email or Teams. Think of it as your daily operational anchor. So, how do you choose your focus for the day? Your today's focus is driven by 1, your data integrity score, 2, your lowest category, 3, your progress on the guided checklist. So, if your lowest category is consistency, your today's focus might be standardize one naming convention, archive duplicate templates, replace one free text field with a dropdown. I'll give you another example. If your lowest category is connectivity, your today's focus might be fix one broken integration. Another good one would be clarify one source of truth. And yet another, remove one manual data transfer. This way, you're not guessing, you're not prioritizing emotionally, whatever the fire is for that day. You're following a system. let's look at a real world style example here. We'll have a small agency example. We'll call them Brightline Studios. They had decent tools, smart people, but inconsistent delivery. So what did they do? They went ahead and they scored their systems. And what did they discover? Consistency was their lowest category. So instead of launching a massive overhaul, they used today's focus. What did they do? Let's break it down here. Week 1, they had these specific items every day as examples. I'm going to give you examples as their daily focus. Monday, what did they do on Monday? Monday, they standardized the client folder naming convention. That's one action, one item. Not a to-do list, not 18 items, not 20. It's one action, one item for that day. What did they do on Tuesday? On Tuesday, they had one action, one item to update the onboarding checklist template. Remember, we're not overhauling everything. You're choosing one action tied to the category that you're lowest for that day. So after they did that, on Wednesday, they had a very specific item and they removed duplicate intake forms. Well, that's already starting to clean up quite a bit. Moving on, they went on to Thursday. And what was their one action, one item on Thursday? They went ahead and added required fields to the CRM stage. And then came Friday. And Friday, they decided to document one workflow. And guess what? Not one of these tasks took more than 30 to 45 minutes. But what happened? By the end of the week, they had fewer mistakes, faster onboarding, less internal confusion, and definitely more confidence in their systems. This way, there was no burnout, no overhaul, just steady, visible progress. And that is exactly how momentum is built. Okay, so at this point, you might be asking yourself, how do I make this practical? Yes, you gave me examples. Yes, you gave me week 1, week 2, week 1, and some ideas on how to make things better. But how do I exactly use today's focus? Well, I'm going to give you the checklist. I love my checklists. So with that being said, let's dive right into the checklist. Number 1, you're going to check your today's focus each and every morning. You're going to do this before your emails, before your Teams chats, and before reacting. What are you going to ask yourself at this point? So, what is today's one system level action? This should take under 2 minutes, okay? So, once you've decided what your today's focus is that morning, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to complete the recommended task. So how do you complete this task and make sure that you have the time that you need to focus, to use today's focus, to focus on that item that morning or that day? So you're going to block a focused window. 30 minutes is enough. Remember, you're not going to be multitasking, and it's not about perfection. As you could probably see, my common theme here is not about being perfect every single time. It's about getting that action. Not only is it written, but it's going to get done. So that is why you have one item, not a list of 18 items. So guess what you get to feel at the end of that day? You get to finish the task. You get to mark it complete. And completion matters more than optimization. You feel, and your team feels, that something was accomplished. That is what today's focus is about. So what do you do at the end of the week? You have all these micro actions that you took. You had a focus every day that was tied to the category that you had the least improvement. Well, actually, not the least improvement, but the lowest score. And again, reminding yourself that this is not about judgment. It's not about, I'm not working hard enough. It's about actually focusing on something on a daily basis and taking micro actions for that macro effect that you're looking for. So with that being said, you're going to, at the end of the week, on Friday, you need to review the weekly progress. You took all these actions Monday to Friday. You had a focus every single day. You had 30 minutes that you set aside every single day, that you made sure that you had this very specific item that you're going to complete. So this weekly progress, you need to see exactly what happened. Look at what you completed. Notice which category improved, because it will. Acknowledge the progress. This is a critical component because operational work is invisible unless you pause to see it. And progress fuels consistency. It is super important to make sure that everybody in the team, including yourself, understands and takes the time to appreciate the progress that you've done, to appreciate that work has been done, and that progress has been made across the board. Yes, they were small 30-minute micro actions on a daily basis, but the more you compound on these daily actions and these daily tasks, and you focus each and every morning and every single week, you actually review what was accomplished. You're going to see in 4 weeks, in 1 week, as a matter of fact, but in 4 weeks, you're going to see the needle move. So unless you pause on a weekly basis to check progress, to acknowledge the progress, and to feel that you have actually progressed, and applaud the team for progressing, it becomes just another task. So ensure that every morning you're focusing. It takes only 2 minutes to do that. What is my one system level action for today? Complete that recommended task. And again, 30 minutes is more than enough. And on Friday, you're going to review your weekly progress. At the end of that week, you're going to have a progress bar. You're going to have your checklist. You're going to have the 5 action items for each week. And you're going to check off that box saying, I completed this. And again, it is a critical component of progress. Progress is critical to be acknowledged. And it must be acknowledged when your team is seeking for some sort of not just acknowledgement, but they're seeking for progress through their founders. So if you can level set expectations by having exact items to tackle that day, you're going to see not just progress, but motivation from the team. And you're going to feel more motivated because if everyone around you feels that there is progress within the organization and change, not for the sake of change, but change to make things better for everybody, wait and see what happens. It's going to be so much better than you could ever expect. And all you had to do was take 30 minutes a day to set aside and ensure that you focused on one task that changed things for not just you, but for the organization, for the staff, for the team, because it's directly tied to the lowest score and category that you need the most work in. Again, back to no judgment, no issues. You just tackle each issue on a daily basis, and by the end of the week, you're going to see progress that you never thought you could ever achieve. So, what do you think at this point, right? What really comes next? Today's focus is supposed to do something powerful for you here. And not only is it supposed to, it does. What does it accomplish? Well, it keeps you feeling aligned with what you actually are focusing on without being overwhelmed. It keeps you moving without burnout. And it turns improvement into a daily habit, not a quarterly panic. And there's something that I learned a long time ago, and that is it takes approximately 30 days for a person to become habitual with something. So if over the course of the next 5 days, you pick one task every morning, take 2 minutes to do so, tied to your lowest category where you need the most improvement, by the end of 30 days, not only have you improved your systems drastically, day by day, task by task, focus by focus, but you've also created a good habit for yourself, for your team, because now everyone is looking forward to what's next. And not what's next because it's going to change things for the worse, but what's next because things will get better. And so watch and see. You'll start having intake agents give suggestions. You're going to have every staff member across every division start providing not just suggestions, but actions for improvement, things that they see across all of what they do for day to day, and micro actions that will actually move the needle for the business. And it's going to come from your staff because everybody feels like they're moving towards the same goal. They feel supported in their weekly progress, and they also feel supported in their daily focus. So this is not just for you. This is for everybody in the business. This is to allow you to set the tone and have a focus on a daily basis. And you can ensure that your team also has this sense of accomplishment. And there's nothing like that in business. So again, the whole concept here is to turn this improvement into a daily habit and not have chaos reign every quarter. So with that, we've reached the end of pillar 2. And so now you have a way to measure your systems, a way to interpret your readiness, and a way to take action intentionally. This will also give you a daily mechanism to stay on track. You're no longer guessing, you're leading your operation with clarity. So in the next episode, we're going to zoom out. We'll talk about quarterly resets, how to pause, reassess, and realign your systems so they evolve with your business, not against it. Until then, focus small, act intentionally, and let your systems support you, not drain you. I'm Grace, and this is Tech Talks with Grace. I'll see you next time.